Welcome back to the Diversity Diaries. I'm your host, Carlos Jimenez. Today, I'm honored to introduce you to Anita Alvarez, a decorated artistic swimmer who has represented the United States in multiple Olympic Games and World Championships. Anita's career is not only filled with success, but also with moments of resilience, including a highly publicized event where she fainted underwater during a major competition. Her strength and determination to push through adversity have made her an inspiration to athletes around the world. Anita, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to dive into your incredible story. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here and share this with you.
Awesome. Where are you at today? What are you up to?
I'm in Los Angeles, California, which is where I live. It's where the team is based. So our whole team, if we're not from here, have to relocate here just to train together. So
Cool. So you still training fully with the team? Are you
well, we're on break right now, but yes, my plan is to continue on. Um, LA is in my mind, but it's 4 years away, so we'll see.
yeah.
It would be pretty cool to go to a home Olympics. But 1 year at a time. 1 year at a time.
Yep. I know this is a sidetrack question, but do you still have to qualify as a team for the Olympic Games in the US?
So
You just
I think all the sports are a little bit different, but for our sport, we get that automatic quota, so we get that automatic spot. Uh,
wow.
so that's nice because that's been one of our biggest struggles over the past two cycles of Olympics is actually, I mean, more than two, actually like 4 cycles, has been just qualifying a team. So that's like one uncertainty that's out of the way. Um, and now we can just focus on, training and making the best team of athletes group together.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, hopefully we can see you then. We'll see what happens. It's a long time from now, but we never know.
Yeah.
But I was looking. We were doing some research, about you, and I look into your mom's career. Was she an artistic swimmer as well?
She was, yeah. So my mom did artistic swimming. It was called synchronized swimming when she did it. Um, and she did it actually with the same club team that I grew up swimming for in Tonawanda, New York. And then she went off to swim in college at University of Arizona. They used to have a really good program there. And then they cut the program when she was freshman or sophomore. And then she became a coach basically right out of college and is still coaching today. So, yeah, she also competed in an Olympic trials with her duet partner. They came in fourth. So she never went to the Olympics, but, was also went very far in the sport as well.
That's cool. So I guess was she like your inspiration through your youth and coach at the same time?
Yeah, so didn't really coach like me directly too much. She worked in other age groups as I was kind of growing up. But definitely, she was the one that got me first involved in the sport, who introduced me to it at such a young age. And she was always such a supportive um, mother within it all. Like she wasn't like, synchro coach mode. She was always mom mode, which I absolutely loved because it allowed me to fully enjoy the sport and, not feel that pressure that I have to achieve something or that I have to do this sport. It's basically like, if you want to do this, you can. If you don't enjoy it, we can try soccer. We can try something else. So I'm forever grateful for her for kind of giving me that flexibility and that opportunity to find my own passion within the sport. And she was kind of always just that supportive mother who was like, no matter what I did, thought it was amazing and helped me through those times just because she understood the sport at the same time. So it was a really cool relationship that we had with each other and within the sport.
That's amazing. What I agree. So what's your mom saying? Just so we
Karen
Right.
Alvarez. Yeah.
Great. So one more thing. I was what's up with your grandfather? What's the story about? Is it something about is it true that your
Yeah.
grandfather what's the story? Tell me.
Yeah, so my grandfather, which is actually my mom's dad, was the official timekeeper for the famous Miracle on Ice game. Um, and yeah, which is like pretty cool. And growing up, we're a big sports family. We watched all the sports movies, sports documentaries. So growing up watching Miracle on Ice, the movie, and then like finding out that he was a part of that, um, and he worked for USA Hockey for many years. So yeah, it's just like another Olympic connection in the family, which is kind of cool. And he passed about 10 years now, but so just kind of like all of these Olympic journeys that I've been to, every time I'm in Colorado Springs at the training center, thinking of him and just, thinking that he would be so proud, that I'm there and doing what I'm doing. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Mm.
I don't know if you've been to the new museum in the Olympic Museum at Colorado Springs. Have you been there?
Yes, yeah, we went a couple years ago. Yeah. Or no, a year ago. I don't even know what year it is anymore, but
I'll bring that up because I know they have the actual like at the end that
uh-huh.
is the actual like scoreboard of the games.
Oh,
Have you
really?
seen it?
I don't know. I guess I didn't see that. We were there for like an
Oh,
event, so maybe I didn't like
oh,
properly look through the whole thing. I think I need to go back, but um
you should. You should. I think it's the actual original one. So maybe check it out next time when you go over there.
okay, yeah, I will. That's cool.
So you had an incredible career, obviously, so far in artistic swimming. Can you share some moments of the early challenges you faced and as you were breaking into the sport and how you overcame them?
Yeah. Um, I think like early on, more so than like real big challenges, when I was younger, I never had any major injuries. I never there was nothing major like that. Not that everything was easy, but it was just kind of like I was just enjoying the sport, and I wasn't so like set on going to the Olympics. I was just loving what I did and having fun, and I think like one of the biggest challenges, which it sounds silly maybe, but is because it's such a small kind of niche sport, artistic swimming, it was like dealing with like trying to get people to understand the sport and trying to like make it more well known. And growing up in Western New York, it's not a huge sport out there. Maybe in the West Coast is a little bit bigger. But out there, it's not as big, not as respected. So it was almost like one of the biggest challenges for me was at first, trying to like make people respect the sport. Like, this is a sport. I was sick of people asking like, oh, is that even a sport? Is it in the Olympics? And kind of making fun of it in a way. And then I think at some point you kind of realize like people are going to think what they think. This is my passion. This is what I love to do. I know how difficult it is. The people around me know how difficult it is, and that's all that really matters. So, learning to like let go of that, of like who cares what other people think. Like, yes, help people understand the sport and, make more people familiar with it and want to watch it and maybe even try it, but you don't need to convince everyone how difficult it is, or um it's my passion, but it doesn't need to be everyone else's passion too. So kind of like learning to let go of that and just be able to enjoy what I do and not feel that like almost like sometimes you would be embarrassed to say what you do. Like you would say like synchronous swimming, and then people are like, "Oh, swimming, cool. Like what stroke do you do?" Or like, "Oh, Michael Phelps," or whatever. And you're like, "No, that's a little different." But then at some point, like sometimes you're just like, "Yeah, yeah, I like freestyle." Like you just go with it because you were like sick of sick of those questions. Um, so I kind of like learning to, that was like my first step of like learning not to worry so much about what other people think and let that affect me. Um, so it's like not very specific with my sport, but it's kind of like a first like life lesson in that area, I guess.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you, when you were little, you were like had like a little bit of were you ashamed of saying that you were doing this sport somehow? Is that
There's like a little bit of that feeling,
yeah?
yeah. And I don't think I actually was. Like I think I like inside the reason I chose, like I did lots of sports growing up, but the reason I really loved it and chose it was because of how different and unique it was. So like that was the part that drew me in. It was also the part that made me feel a little hesitant and like nervous at times, right? A little bit like um not ashamed, but a little bit of that feeling. But that's also what like made it that much more exciting for me, was how different and unique it was, how other people can't do it. Like it's not, everyone can run. Not everyone can run great Olympic level, but everyone, for the most part can like knows the mechanics of running, but very few people can actually jump in a pool and do any type of artistic swimming move. And I thought that was so cool, because I felt like just so like at another level and like unique and like superhuman like. And I think also the combination of the art and sport, it was very physically demanding, but it was also an outlet for me to move and to express myself. And in the water, it just felt so comfortable for me. On land, we say on land, we're not always like super comfortable. We say we're water creatures. But in the water, like I just feel so at home, so at peace. That it was kind of like my safe space, my second home in a way. So yeah.
That's cool. So to bring us to speed, I know you've mentioned and you've talked about artistic swimming and synchronized swimming.
Hmm.
Can you give the audience a little bit of like what is the difference between them, or they're similar? It's the same sport, like just really quick so
Yeah.
people understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So same sport, just had a name change in 2017, from synchronized swimming. It used to be called synchronized swimming and is now called artistic swimming. There's a lot of, the sport is evolving. It's becoming more intense. There's a lot of changes. It's kind of the athleticism is increasing and increasing every year. So I think they just, I don't know, they wanted a little name change. Synchronized swimming is kind of like where it originated back in whatever year it did, when it was more show style, flower caps, like standing on the bottom of the pool. So it's much different now. So I think it was kind of like, okay, let's shift the name. And then also, if people know like gymnastics, there's like Simone Biles gymnastics is actually called artistic gymnastics, which a lot of people don't know. So it's kind of aligned in a way with that. Um, so that's kind of, I guess, the reasoning why. But yeah, it's a little weird. Like halfway through my life, I just switch the name of the sport I've been doing forever. But in some ways, I think it's cool. I'm like, oh, I'm like technically, not really, but like technically, I could say I'm like a dual sport Olympian because in 2016 I was a synchronized swimmer, and then in 2020 and 2024 I was an Olympic artistic swimmer. So uh, yeah, it's just a little fun thing, but trying to remember to say the correct thing because people still say or people still know of it as synchronized swimming. So
Yeah. I'm guilty of that. So that's good. Thank you for clarifying it.
yeah, of course.
That's cool. But artistic swimming obviously is a mentally and a physically demanding sport, as you just said. Right? What kept you motivated during the toughest periods of your career?
Yeah. Um, it's like it changes a lot over the years. And I think it's interesting to think about like back to my first Olympics, right? Training up to my first Olympics in 2016. Um, that was like motivation enough. It's like I'm accomplishing my dream. I'm gonna go to the Olympics. Like once I was selected for the duet, training every day, it wasn't easy at all. But at the same time, it was so easy to wake up and to be motivated for this goal that's just it's so close. Um, and then it gets a little bit harder. You get older, you've already been to one. So in my mind, it's like I've already accomplished my dream, my goal, right, of going to the Olympics. Obviously, I have different goals going into the Tokyo Games and the Paris Games. There's bigger purpose behind what I was doing, um, but it's still at the same time, when you're tired, when you're not feeling so motivated at 5 a.m. in the morning, you're like, oh, I've already been to the Olympics, like, but so that's kind of when you have to dig deep within. And I think um, for myself, I'm fortunate enough to be in a team sport, so I've found a lot of motivation and just that like extra juice that I need on those days from my teammates, from the people around me. And in times when you are feeling more alone, it's your community, it's your family, your closest friends, because they know how badly you want to accomplish this goal and these dreams. And the teammates, it's a direct, they know exactly what you're going through. So it's easy to connect and relate with them and kind of lean on them and to allow them to lean on you when they need it. And then your outside family and friends, they just have that outside perspective. Like they're not there every day, but they know how badly you want it, and they can kind of give you that extra push that you need when it's a little bit difficult. Um, and yeah, sometimes just, reflecting and looking inside and still feeling that fire and that flame from inside and remembering that little girl who, wanted to go to the Olympics back then. And yeah, so I think it's a combination of just kind of leaning on those people around you. In a team sport, you're so lucky. It's so not, I don't want to say easy, but it's right there in front of you. Um, And if it's, more individual sport or individual situation, like you have your community that you build around you. And that's why they say it's so important, the people that are around you, right? Filling your life with people who uplift you and are there for you, um, makes such a huge difference. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I clearly answered that right. Went kind of a
No,
bunch of different, but
you did, but I was now I have this question. So you've been to 3 Olympic Games, right? So far.
yes.
Um, if you can shortly describe what was the purpose of each of them, as you
Mm.
said it, your I don't
Yeah.
want to say your values change, but your perspective of life shift and changes as you grow, right? As you go through your experience in life. So when you started first Olympics to the last one, what was your purpose for each of them to keep pushing?
Yeah. So I think like the first Olympics, it was so, I don't want to say like shallow, but it was so surface level with like you just have this dream of becoming an Olympian. And that's like what it's been since I was however years old and writing it in my English journal in sixth grade, So like it's just like as simple as I want to go to the Olympics. I want to become an Olympian. And so you're training hard every day, but you get there and I'm just like taking it all in. Like every moment is like the coolest thing ever. And um, Rio had a lot of its issues in 2016 with like our pool. It was green at one point. They had to change the water. Like there were some problems in the village. There's all sorts of stuff. Zika was in the air. But for me, like none of that mattered. And it was just so like I was just living in a dream. So I think the first one was really just like I was just taking it all in. I was younger. My duet partner was about 7 years older than me. So trying to just kind of like kind of follow a little bit, like just like learn the ropes from her. It was her second Olympics at that time. So just kind of like living in it, right? And there wasn't, I don't want to say there wasn't much purpose behind it, but it was really just like just accomplish your dream and just enjoy this moment. And my family was there who got to experience it too. And so it was just very special like that, very like simple. Going into the second games was much more complicated. Obviously, like it was around COVID happened. Our team just missed out on qualifying, so that was kind of a devastating moment before still getting to go to the Olympics with the duet. Um, so for this one, it was more in the end, it ended up being in a way kind of similar to the first one because I was like, just enjoy it. Like this has been such a crazy ride. It's been so many ups and downs, so many difficult moments. And your teammates didn't get to qualify. They're not here getting to experience this moment with you. So you better like enjoy it and enjoy all these experiences, for them and like with them, like hold them close. So it was kind of like there's a crazy moment. I was just like, it was a victory just to make it there and be there after everything that had happened in the world and with our team over the past, I don't know, year or two. Um, so trying to like appreciate the moment, right? Appreciate that experience that I got. I didn't know, again, at the time, I was like, I don't know if this is the last one or if I'll be back. All these things that were just unknowns. And I was like, just trying to really, enjoy it as much as I can. Um, and not so much on the competition, like doing my best in the competition, whatever we can give. But like there's so much more to the Olympic Games as far as experience goes, athlete experience goes. So, of course, different again, being COVID times, but trying to, as much as I could, take it all in. And then going into Paris, very, very different. We had a team, we qualified a team for the first time since 2008, which was huge for us. So, my first Olympics, getting to go with a full team, which has been my dream. So getting to accomplish that was like huge in itself. And then that was like, okay, now, we had a few world championships. So we started medaling. This is the first time we're medaling at worlds in years. So it's kind of like, okay, we qualified the team. At first, we're like, all right, we just need to qualify the team. And then it's like, enjoy the ride. But now we're like, no, we can actually do really well here. Like, this is like, we're competing, we're not just going to enjoy it. So, it became a much, much bigger feat going into the games. And I think for myself, I'd already been there twice. It wasn't about becoming an Olympian for me. It wasn't even about becoming a medalist. I was trying to not think so much, not be so focused on that like one goal and the outcome, right? So kind of turning within, like, what do I want to bring to this team? What can my goal be, like, to allow my teammates who this is going to be all of their first Olympics, um, how can I help them and allow them to have the best experience and memories forever. So trying to kind of lean into my leader side and take a new role within the team. I was now the veteran of the team, one of the oldest on the team. So trying to do what I could to lead. Um, and so that was my main goal, was to lead the team, and kind of our overall team goal was to enjoy the games. Like, yes, we're going to fight and we're going to work hard every day, but there's only so much in our control. So focusing on the controllables, and then the rest will happen. And that's kind of what we did. And we wanted to end the Olympics feeling like we would want to do it 10 times over again. A lot of people end burnt out. A lot of people end like, I don't want to touch a pool for 5 years minimum. So kind of our goal and our coach's goal for the team was, she wanted us all to enjoy this experience and this leading up to the games, and to finish the Olympics and have loved it. Like, yes, we're going to be tired and exhausted, but like feeling like we would want to do that over and over again. And I think we were successful in that way, which is pretty cool. And at the same time, we ended up coming home with a medal. So that was kind of just cherry on top of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, beautiful. I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're turning to more of a leader in the sport, right? I mean, you're develop those qualities and skills to now mentor the young ones. And how does that feel?
It feels really cool. I've really loved it, and I don't think it was. I think it does come natural in me, but it doesn't always feel like I never really knew how to do it, or like how to like start or begin. Like, we don't really have like set captains on the team. Just It's just not really our thing. Like, we all have different roles. Like, everyone plays a different role and has their different strengths that they give to the team, which I think is also a super special um team dynamic. Um, but I think naturally, like, there were those leader instincts in me, and I think kind of having to find my own way to do it, right? Like, you can learn from other people, but there's no one way to do it or to lead. And I think kind of finding my own personal individual way of doing it, leading by example, or like little things that were unique to me and I felt confident in doing, was super important, and was kind of how I found the way to do it. Because at first it's hard, or you feel like insecure. You don't know if people are going to get mad if you say this or that. But in the end, like, everyone wants a leader who's calm and who's confident and who can kind of help in those situations when the team needs, rather than like all of us looking to each other and everyone saying different things. So once I kind of figured that out, it was a cool dynamic for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like, there's no class in high school, college that teaches these skills, no? You have to go
Yeah.
through them and make a few mistakes here and there, and then you kind of like refine your craft as you go. Um,
Yeah,
but
100%.
obviously, Anita, we have to talk about one of the major events that happened in your career, besides the best thing you won, an Olympic medal.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, maybe a lot of people know about you also because of this incident you had, right?
Right.
And I want to show this picture here, and I want you to describe this to us, and where was it, what happened at
hmm
that time.
Yeah. So I was at World Championships in 2022. I was competing in team, duet, and solo events at that competition, and there are prelims and finals for each event. So it's a very long, grueling competition. Our world champs, whenever we have them. I think I was on day 5, and I was swimming my second event of the day. We had free team in the morning, and then I had to come back in the evening and swim my free solo final. So went into free solo final, was exhausted, just in general, body, mind was exhausted, but that's what we're used to. So I swim my routine, feeling very, like, very in flow, very like enjoying it also. And I don't always enjoy competitions like swims. It's the learning process, but sometimes you're so like focused or whatever that you forget to actually like be present and enjoy what you're doing. So I felt very present in the swim. Like I was listening to the music, I was doing my thing. And then, the end of the routine comes, I do my last arm, I come up, and then I just remember kind of everything going dark. And then, yeah, what happened was I lost consciousness and I was doing solo. So I was by myself in the pool. So I sank straight to the bottom of the pool. Um, and, my coach, thank goodness, realized something was off. She dove in immediately um, and brought me to the surface until kind of medical attention came in and brought me to the side of the pool. And I was out for a bit until I remember laying on the ground. And at one point, like all my senses started coming back. So I remember starting to like hear a little bit, like there was light coming through my eyelids. And then I remember just like feeling pain, like everything hurt my body, like everything was just like on fire. Um, and then all of a sudden I realized like, oh, I'm not breathing. And then I just like took a breath.
Wow.
And then I woke up and, all of a sudden like my coaches around me, our team doctor and all the other like Hungarian medical people are around me, and like someone's coming to like put an oxygen mask on my face, and then I like remember just like hitting it away, and I was like, no, no, no. Um, so yeah, I kind of like came back to at that point, but yeah, it was very scary. I think probably even more scary for the people around because they all witnessed it, right? Like I was unconscious, so there are other parts of it that are a little bit like scarring or traumatizing, I guess, in my brain, but like that part specifically, like I wasn't with it for. So like I don't, I just remember the before, which was great, and then the after, which was like kind of confusing. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of that. And then there was underwater photographers at these competitions, so they captured these underwater photos of kind of as I was sinking, and then as our coach was coming in to save me and bringing me to the surface. So there's a whole reel of photos from that moment, um, which is pretty crazy to see, but also like strangely beautiful at the same time. Um, and one of the photos ended up blowing up in the media, in the news. So it became a big, like everyone knew about it.
Yeah.
Like all around the world too, not even just like in Hungary or not even just in the US. Like it was like a world news thing. I had friends from random countries sending me like the front page of their newspaper at the store,
Yeah.
like, this photo. So um, yeah, it was a crazy time. I think parts of it were not good, but parts of it, it allowed people to see our sport in a different light. Like, oh, the sport is so difficult. And, people were getting familiar with our sport, which is like what I was talking about earlier, is just being such a small sport. Not that this had to be the way to kind of get that recognition and publicity, but it's, if we're looking at the positive sides to what happened. I guess that was kind of one thing that I would say there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But okay, that was the so for what I was researching about this, was that the second time or the first time you had
Um,
this episode?
so that was the second time.
Yeah.
The
So how
first.
do you find like courage to like, you know what, this happened like the first time, and then oh, let me keep going. Like how do you came up to terms with that, and
Mhm.
what's the yeah, how did that happen? Like, I mean, probably you have to think about it a lot with family, friends, and just to kind of come to terms like, okay, I'm willing to risk a little bit of my life, or oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Well, how was that?
So yeah, so it happened the previous year at our Olympic qualifier for Tokyo. So summer of 2021 or spring of 2021. At time wasn't as serious. Like I was in a duet, so my duet partner was right there to get me. Um, there were no crazy photos that went viral. It was a smaller competition in general, so like it didn't blow up as much. So I think because of that, it kind of got brushed by a little bit. And of course at that not actually, but like, in my head, like I was like, oh yeah, this happened, like that's not great, but like it was a long competition. Again, it was a very stressful one. We just the night before missed out on qualifying the team, so emotional roller coaster as well. Um, and at that point, I was like, I'm this close to the Olympics. I'm not going to the Olympics. So it was kind of another part of before Tokyo was like just get through, and I was saying just enjoy it because like I was grateful to be there, and also I was like, a month or two ago, this episode happened, and who knows if I would be here or not. So like enjoy it kind of. But yeah, so there wasn't much like thought, not that there wasn't much thought behind it, but to come back after that first one, I think it was bigger process coming back from the second one, the big one that blew up. So that one was a much bigger, like, okay, after that happened, it was like, okay, we need to figure this out. We need to, run all the tests, make sure medically everything's okay. We need to, take my blood work, see my levels, keep be more on top of it because, yeah, one, I don't want this happening again. I don't want to be risking my life, and I don't want to be like questioning every time I swim, is this going to happen, right? I want to know if there's something off or if everything's fine. And also like legally, because it was at such a big competition, like I had to go through a big legal process to actually be allowed to compete again at a World Aquatics FINA event. So it was kind of a big process to come back. But for me, I think I knew I still had the passion. I knew I still loved the sport, and that definitely wasn't the way I wanted to go out. Like I didn't want to, retire after that. For sure, that would be, if you Google my name, all of a sudden that's the only thing that came up for the longest time, and that is not what I wanted, and that's not how I wanted to leave the sport either. And it's something that I've loved and felt. I talked about being in a pool and being like kind of my second home and my safe space, where I just feel comfortable and I feel like myself. And all of a sudden that was kind of transformed into like a not safe space. And I didn't like the idea of that. And actually that same day, um, I asked after I was like, off the bed and the table and everything, I asked if I could go like cool down a little bit, just like swim a few laps because I didn't know the next time I'd be in the pool, and I wanted to kind of clear that air right away of like feeling like that was not a safe space, or that the last time I was in the water was when that happened. So I got back in and cooled down just to kind of like find that comfort and home again in there, and clear that clear that space. But yeah, I think finding the courage to come back was really just like I didn't want to go out that way. I also knew that, it could be an inspirational story for other people. Actually, I wasn't thinking about that at the time. That's just kind of how it turned out, right? But yeah, I think overcoming the challenge and the adversity, um, just kind of, I don't know, just kind of like motivated me to go back. And I knew I wasn't really thinking about it too much before. I think I just wanted to make sure, one, I was okay, and two, I still loved it. So I wanted to get back out there. And it was like as simple as that. And then it became more complex, like the more we went on with the process, and after I came back and what other people like saw and what they drew from my story that helped motivate them, and things like that. So it became bigger later on, I guess.
That's cool. Have
Yeah.
you heard people like coming up to you like, hey, obviously I heard about your story. I mean, so anyone come up to you with a story like you motivated me because you pushed through this, like something like that has happened to you?
Y- Yeah, yeah. And it's always been a little bit like sticky at first because, when that happened, like there were a lot of people that were like, wow, like, that is so inspiring, like the way you came back. And I also had a foot injury earlier that same year. So I was out for a while and came back to swim at that World Championships. And so people were very inspired by the story, but then you also have a little bit of those people in the back of your, kind of the back corner who are like you don't need to be like telling people to like push past their limits, or like teaching kids that like, to go too far, or like, so then I kind of went the other way, and I'm
Are you
like,
serious?
yeah, and I'm like, that's never been like, I've always been wanting to do, the best for the sport and for the next generation and like inspiring youth. And so for me, all of a sudden I was like, wait, am I being a bad example for kid? Like it kind of like shifted my brain a little bit, and I was confused at one point. I was a little lost. I'm like, I don't know like which part of my story I should be kind of like using as my story. Like I don't really know which direction to go,
Wow.
because I feel like whatever I do is going to be something wrong with it, or whatever I say. But again, back to my point of like, one of the first lessons I learned is just like not worrying so much about what other people think, because everyone's going to have their own opinions. People are going to have, there's always going to be those people who are more negative about whatever is going on. So just leaning into my own feelings and kind of just sticking to my own values, and and all of that is kind of the direction I had to go. But yeah, it was tough at one point. Kind of like deciding like what's right, what's wrong, what's like yeah, a little back and forth there. But um,
Wow. I mean, honestly, I never thought of that side of the story of like coin. You know what I mean? But I guess we're in an era where things can be polarizing all the time. So
yeah, yeah.
I just keep pushing the motivation side. Keep pushing. People can
100%.
come back after any tough challenges. But you know what? I mean, you wanted a lot. You wanted to go back to the sport, obviously. And I was looking at the story, and it said that you have to actually do a physical test
Mm,
in the pool, right?
yeah.
I mean, the hardest thing that your coach have seen, the doctor was like, she needs to push to the limit where she's gonna have to pass out in the water. So we have to figure it out. It was even harder, much more harder than a Navy SEAL training or something like that. That's
That's
what.
what you said. Yeah.
So do you really have to? I mean, suffer to put a test. You were crying at the end, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that was about 2 years ago. It was October of 2022, actually. But yeah, so it was a test for. So I saw a neurologist, saw a cardiologist. So this one was a heart. They put a heart monitor on me. They wanted to make sure my heart, everything was okay as I'm swimming, and they also wanted me to to push to the point of passing out, potentially, to see what happens with my heart in that moment, like when that happens, like what's going on with my heart. So it was kind of like a crazy idea. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna like try and get myself to do that again. But
It feels like,
oh,
I
yeah,
don't know. This is gonna sound stupid, but I remember when I was in high school, like people do like the joking to each
yeah,
other, like a little bit, like
yeah, yeah,
just for fun.
yeah, yeah. No, it was bizarre. Like it was such a weird like idea that I had to put into my brain. And then also in my head, I was like, okay, so say I pass out and nothing shows up on the heart monitor. Then I just did all that for nothing. But say like I pass out and something shows up and now I know something's wrong. I'm like, that also sucks. Like there's no win here. I was like, no, but it was important for me to find out, right? To at least clear the air that nothing is wrong in the at the least. So yeah, it was very difficult. It was honestly it was like more of a mental challenge than anything. I mean, physically it was very hard also, but mentally it was like just to show up that day and be like, okay, I'm gonna try and make myself pass out. Like it was very crazy, and the whole thing, like we had doctors, we had everyone on the side of the pool, so like it was done in a safe, controlled environment, of course. But yeah, I had teammates who they had practice, they ended a little early, and I kind of told them like you can stay and watch support if you want to, but also like feel free to leave. It's not really a great thing to watch either. So like they already witnessed like what happened over the summer. Like I didn't want to put them through that again either. So I was like, I'm okay with whatever you want, but don't feel like you have to stay. So a bunch of them, they all ended up staying and sitting and kind of cheering me on the whole time, which was ended up being very helpful because there are times when I, was like pretty much like stopping, like giving up a little bit, and then they're there and it's like, just encouraging me to keep going. And one of my closest friends, teammates who I've known forever, at one point she had to come to the wall and I was crying and she was like, you need to, like, you want to do this, like, you want to know, like, you want to keep swimming, like, you have to do this to find
Wow.
out if everything's okay. Like, it was very difficult. But yeah, through that, I mean, now like looking back, it's like it was a huge moment in my whole story. Um, and that day I'll remember forever, and and made me stronger. So, and I found out that everything was okay with my heart, which was like the biggest thing. And I didn't pass out, which I kind of like knew. I was like, I don't feel like I'm going to, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So it ended up just being like a super hard workout for
Wow.
for not for nothing, but yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, honestly, can only imagine pushing yourself through all of that um, I mean, for this, and that shows how much you really wanted to go back to the sport and keep competing, and eventually win an Olympic medal. It's like,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on, what a story there. So looking back on your journey, Anita, what's the biggest lesson you've learned about overcoming adversity, both in and out the pool?
Yeah. I think something that I always say now and that I kind of go by is seeing the good in every situation, right? Like not overlooking, the difficult moments or whatever's happening, but just being able to look at the brighter side of the difficult situation. So, there's that quote, John Wooden quote, things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And I think that was on my vision board for a long time at one point. And it's really so true. Like our team has embodied that whole idea and philosophy. And anytime something comes up, we've been through lots of adversity, but when that happens, like what can we learn from the situation? What can we gain? Where can we grow? What is the bright side of this? And when you see things that way, things will turn out better, and things will, go uphill from there. And of course, there's some that are easier to find the good than other situations, but um, yeah, kind of always making the most of whatever happens. Like you lose this competition, you don't qualify for the Olympics. Okay, sucks in the moment, like allow yourself to feel that way, to feel those feelings and those emotions, but then okay, how are we going to bounce back? How are we going to move forward? What can we learn from this to be better next time? And everything that you do and every moment that you go through, good or bad, I don't really think there's good or bad if you look at it um in a positive way. So any bad thing that happens to you can be the best thing that happened to you, because maybe a new opportunity arises, maybe you learn from it and grow and become a whole new person, a whole better person for it. So yeah, I think in general, whenever you're facing adversity, just finding the growth moments in it, having that growth mindset is super important. And if you have that, like you can do anything, you can overcome anything.
Yeah, I like that. So one thing that I like to obviously talk to you and other guests that I've invited before is, how do you stay resilient with personal challenges, and how do you balance the demands of your professional career with your personal well-being?
Mm. Um, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. So basically, but it, we can edit this part, so we can edit.
Sorry.
No worries. Sorry. Uh, okay. So here we go. So so how do you stay resilient when faced with personal challenges, and how do you balance the demands of your professional career with your personal well-being?
Yeah. Um, I think being able to find that balance in life, right? Like it's so easy for us to get uber focused on just this one goal. And I've seen myself there. I was definitely there before Paris. But trying to have like little bits of things for yourself. So outside of training, like understanding and learning what you enjoy to do outside of that. So whether it's you like to read or go for, I live super close to the ocean, so I love to walk just down to the ocean for sunset. Simple but very like peaceful and calming, and I kind of have my time to write or to read, um and kind of like brings the calm when everything at the pool is like crazy every day and I'm up at 5 a.m. and going till 3 p.m. So I think having like finding that balance of all aspects of your life, and whether you're in school, whether you're working, and just, training, or you have a family or whatever it is, like knowing you have all those points, and you have 10 points for each to put into all the boxes, right? 10 whatever you want to put into them, and how you divvy that up. And that's going to change at different points of your life, at different seasons of your life. Maybe at this point, like we have this important work project, so that's like the most important, or like you're training for the Olympics. So, and you're 1 month out, like that's where you're going to put most of the apples, right? And then you'll have a little bit less in like your personal time, or a little bit less in like friends and fun time or whatever. So kind of knowing that you have all these categories, I guess, is how I think of it. I'm a very visual learner, so like I have this diagram pictured in my
Wow.
head right now. But you have apples to put in each bucket, and each part of your life, each season of your life is going to be a little bit different. So knowing that and kind of accepting that, but still allowing, like, you never want to have any of them empty. You always want to be able to have something in all of them, for that, like, that balance. It's never going to be fully balanced or equal, right? But it's finding a way to distribute it in a balanced way.
I like that analogy, especially if you think about seasons, right? Like if you grow apples, like it would be different in season, right? So you have to spread them out throughout the year to feel
Right.
like, I love that. I like that. Okay.
I
Uh,
was thinking about whiteboard, right?
yes, exactly. Are there any upcoming competitions, projects, initiatives that you are particularly excited about as you continue your career?
Yeah. So I mean, competitions wise, nothing like major right now. We have world championships coming up next summer, which will be a big one. We have kind of a transition with some new teammates coming in, some old ones leaving. We have some new coaches coming onto the coaching staff. So it'll be kind of a transition year. But world champs are always a big competition to look forward to. And outside of that, doing some stuff with like youth athletes, which I really enjoy. I work with Ready Set Gold SoCal, which works with um, youth athletes and students in the Los Angeles area, and just kind of like instilling the importance of physical activity, but also some social emotional learning skills as well. And I think all of that kind of work, any like mindset skill work at a young age, I love kind of doing that stuff with youth athletes just because it's so important. And, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily think about that stuff. I never really even knew what the word stress was until later on. So it's kind of like the earlier that you can kind of uh, instill those skills in youth athletes is great. And I love doing that.
That's cool. I'm sure the kids will find a little bonding with you. Are you good with kids? Like, I mean, I guess you have to be like playful with them to get the buy-in to what you're saying and just kind of earn their trust. And um, do you enjoy working with the young people?
I do, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've coached for years now. I've coached youth athletes. So in artistic swimming and in regular kind of swimming skills. So um I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on onto the last few segments here. Okay. So basically, these are just fun things, lighthearted uh, segments that we created. The first one is called the Big What If segment. Okay. If you had to pursue artistic swimming, what do you think you would be doing today?
Oh. Um, I mean, definitely something in athletics. I feel like I did a lot of sports growing up, and I feel like I always felt like I could have excelled in other sports too if I really, went into them. So I guess like I did regular swimming. I mean, did a lot of other sports. Or like I guess I'm an adult now, so I probably wouldn't still be an athlete. But I don't know. I think I wanted to be like a physical therapist when I was younger. Honestly, my dad was a physical therapist, so I liked sports and kind of understood the body and all that stuff. So
That's cool. Okay. So okay. I like your that more now. There you go. What if you could go back and give advice to yourself at the start of your career? What would you say to yourself?
mm, I think there's a few different things, but I think like kind of reminding myself to have fun and to enjoy all the moments. I think at a certain age, like I got very serious and wouldn't even like want to like laugh or felt like I couldn't joke around. But that's like when those moments when I've had fun and when I've been able to laugh with my teammates and kind of keep the energy light, is when I'm enjoying what I'm doing the most, and it's when I end up performing the best as well. So remembering, why you started, and I started because I loved it and it was fun, and so keeping that no matter how serious I get in the sport, to always keep that like light energy and that fun energy within the sport.
Cool. Next will be the rapid fire round. Okay. So, what's your favorite post competition recovery meal?
Um, okay, I don't really know post competition recovery, but I did have this one that's like my favorite post comp. meal that I've ever had, which was in France. And it was just this one restaurant, and we had steak frites, and it was so good. And I still think about it.
Oh, it's not so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the best place you've traveled for a competition?
Um, I really love Japan. Great people, culture. It's clean, the food, like everything about it. I love. Besides that, I don't speak the language, but uh, I can work on it.
Yeah. What's the one skill every artistic swimmer should master?
Um, it seems silly, but the skill, like to learn to float. It's like it's people don't realize it's a skill, but you have to learn like how to float and like be buoyant in the water. Because when you're and it's not like you're not like actually just floating, but learning how to like kind of be one with the water, right? Like when you're on your back and you stick a leg up, like you have to like know where to transfer your weight and be buoyant so that you can stay above the water. Versus like some people will lift their leg up and they'll just like completely sink down, or
Yeah.
things like that. So I think it seems simple, but like learning how to be like how to be balanced in the water. So like even if it's just laying on your back and like learning how to stay flat and not let your feet sink or not let your head sink. Yeah.
Wow. It's easier said than done. I'm sure.
Yeah, I know. It seems simple, but yeah.
Last couple of things here. This is called the Would You Rather, okay? Would you rather compete solo or in a team event?
Uh, they both have their good things, but I think team. I love teams.
Cool. Would you rather perform in a cold pool or a really warm one?
My teammates are gonna hate me for saying this, but I say cold pool. I get overheated, but we don't like cold pools either, though. But I'll say cold pool.
Especially 5 a.m., no? Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
last question here. This is called the moment of Zen. What's the one piece of advice or mantra that helps you push through tough times?
Hmm. I think, okay, one that I had on my vision board actually leading up to the Paris Games, which was, it was in the words section. So I had, my words were commit, surrender, and trust. So it was commit to the controllables. We can't control what the other teams are doing. We can't control what the judges are going to give us. We can't control all these other things. So only focusing and committing to those controllables, surrendering the outcome, going into the games. It was never about coming out with a medal or a certain score or a certain rank or beating a certain team. So commit to the controllables, surrendering the outcome, whatever happens, happens. If we gave it our best and we committed to those controllables, that's all we could ask for. And then trusting the process, which is very basic and simple, but it's very true. Everything we do every day, we have our training, it's a process. And when we get to competition, it's the same thing. So, and I think I've used that kind of in other areas now too. So commit to the controllables, surrender the outcome, and trust the process. Something that's really helped me this past year, especially.
Cool. Well, thank you all. Thank you so much, Anita. I am so excited that you were part of this episode, and I'm sure a lot of people will learn from you, all your wisdom and tips, and definitely this one will be. I'm really honored that you're actually talking to me and participating in this podcast, and thanks again, and have
Yeah.
good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.